Alright my friends, my name is Jack Billings and I'm the CEO and founder of Shed Knives. And today I have to clarify a few things because I noticed there are a few unaddressed parts of Shed Knives, or at least I guess they haven't been addressed well enough. So I'm going to go over them today. In the meantime, let me know what you're carrying. Today I have with me the 2023 Shed Knife Sheep's Foot in Midnight Black G10. It's 154 cm steel, 100% USA made, 100% USA steel, 100% USA G10, everything made in America. I don't outsource to other countries. I don't get materials from other countries. Everything I do stays 100% in the USA. And if you support that, mission, you can go to shedknives.com and support that even further. So let's get into the video. Heat treating. Let's talk about this for a second. I posted a video about 2 days ago and I mentioned heat treating. I was doing a Q&A and I talked about heat treating. Shed Knives, this is the part I'm going to repeat. Shed Knives went 2 months, approximately 2 months in 2023 that did not heat treat any knives. It was the first 2 months, and that is because my knives are so thick that when I did the test on them with the hollow grinds, when I did all the tests, I didn't roll any edges, I didn't break anything, I didn't bend anything. This stayed completely intact. Let me tell you, I beat my knives to death, and when I release my 2024 models, you're going to see exactly what I mean. But after that 2 months, went to Blade Show, sold unheat treated knives, and everybody about lost their mind who didn't buy, by the way. And I noticed that the loudest people in the room don't have any cash to spend on knives. So the ones who got upset obviously didn't buy, but there were a lot of people who were intrigued by this. And they picked up my knives, they tested them. I've watched a few videos on the unheat treated knives and they tested them. So there's that. But then I decided, you know what, just to have the credibility and just to say, you know what, I sell knives 58 to 60 Rockwell, I decided to go heat treating. So it was like mid-June of 23. I moved all my knives to heat treating. Now, let me tell you what I did. I used a different process then, which is used now, or at least for the 2023 models, like this one, this exact one I'm holding. And what I did, I sent my knives to Kowalski Heat Treating, which they did a hot heat treat, and then they did tempering. So tempering, for those of you who don't know too much about heat treating, which at one point that was me, basically tempering takes your Rockwell, so when you heat treat this, it goes to, we'll just say 65. It goes to 65 Rockwell. I'm making that up. Then when you temper, it brings that down to your desired Rockwell. So for me, I want 58 to 60. So tempering brings the knife down. You put this pretty much in an oven at a lower temperature, like you don't bake it at 2000 degrees, but you put it in an oven pretty much, and you let it sit for a specified amount of time, and it lowers the Rockwell to what you want. And for me, again, 58 to 60 Rockwell. But here's the problem with that. It was way too freaking expensive. Oh my goodness, it costs a ton of money per knife. The most I ever spent was like $27 per knife. So that is a lot of money out of the bank, and that just doesn't help with anything. It also keeps prices high for you guys, which I don't want. So after I had enough of that, which I only did 2 orders with them, I believe, I decided to go to Peter's Heat Treat in Pennsylvania. Peter's Heat Treat, they do a really good job. They've been doing heat treating for over 40 years. Okay, that is a very long time, and they obviously must be doing something right. So Peter's Heat Treat, what they do a hot heat treat, and then they do cryogenics. I talked to them today on this exact process. Literally, I called them, I had a comment, the guy was like, that doesn't clarify enough. Okay, fine. I called just to double check. And yes, they use hot heat treat. Peter's Heat Treat uses hot heat treat for the 154 cm, but then they also end with cryogenics. to get to the exact 58 to 60. So they tell me on my paper, just every order, it's between 58 and 60 Rockwell. So they get to that range, 58 to 60, through cryogenics. So hopefully that clarifies all the confusion. I say it one more time. I heat treat knives, hot heat treat, then it goes to cryogenics, and it all is done at Peter's Heat Treat in Pennsylvania. Now, why knives took forever? It's because my last batch, they took forever. Peter's Heat Treat does a lot of great work, but the last batch took way too long. So if you're waiting for an order, well, there you go. Now I have all my knives in-house. I have some blanks here that have not been bought yet, and I have all my orders set behind me on this table. Okay, there they are, and they're being worked on. So hopefully that explains it. Also, steel thickness. I had a question. I'm actually going to read it to you just so I can get it exact. Alright, so Jimbus Maximus 4624 commented on my Q&A video. He said, I asked the question about the size of the finished stock. You said imagine a 1/4 inch piece of steel. Then you said it's finished at 0.187, but then you said it's 1 millimeter. Did you mean a millimeter under a 1/4 inch? I'm not trying to be critical, man, I promise, but I think your explanation was confusing. I agree. I watched the clip for like the 3rd or 4th time, and then it finally clicked after reading this. Yes, it was confusing. So let me clarify for everyone else out there wondering, for the thickness of my knives. My steel, I'm going to read you exactly what I said. No worries, I appreciate the double checking. I order 0.207 inches to 0.227 inch thick steel. The varying of the thickness is from the manufacturer and is designed to be finished at 0.187 inches. However, I do not do any surface grinding to get it to 0.187. The 1 millimeter reference was saying 1 millimeter under a 1/4 inch for the exact blade stock thickness. And I go on from there. But anyways, let me tell you why I'm using different measurements, millimeter, inches, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, the steel is measured 0.207 inches to 0.227 inches thick. It varies, and that is because it is not finished. What is finished? Finished steel is basically your knife flat, which without the scales or anything else, and it is surface ground. And you reveal a very shiny surface pretty much because you surface ground it. And you're getting all of the corrosion and just all the different, there's different names for it, but you're getting all of that surface change, that surface texture, you could say, getting all of that off through the surface grind. So they need the steel to be thicker to get it to 0.187 inches. Now, since I don't do that surface grinding, that means my knives are between 0.207 inches to 0.227 inches, and for reference, a 1/4 inch is 0.250 inches. So a millimeter, technically, my knives are, it's like 1.3 millimeters under a 1/4 inch. Millimeters to me are just easier. I design all my knives in millimeters. I mean, 1/4 inches, inches, all that stuff is great. But when I'm working with very fine numbers, very fine details, I find millimeters to be a little bit helpful. So yes, I love my USA knives, but standard system, I don't get it as much as millimeters. So that's why I kind of cross-reference sometimes. So there's that. Also steel, I had a few people say, because I mentioned millimeters, my steel comes from other countries. Guys, this is 154 cm made in New York State, United States of America. It is USA made. I would not lie about that. I mean, certainly I could, but what good does that do? I lay out my prices, I lay out all sorts of things. So anyways, there's that. Also, I'm saving this one for the end because we'll see if they're still watching. But anyways, I have been told by several people that I am not a knife maker. So I just want to let you know, according to several people, Jack Billings is not a knife maker. Alright? This knife made itself apparently. Or maybe I sent it somewhere to be made. So I just want to let you know, according to them. But from Jack Billings from Shed Knives, which a lot of you forget, that Shed Knives is an actual company. It's an actual business that sells to dealers all over the planet. All over Earth, there are Shed Knives dealers. And the thing that confuses people is that Benchmade, Chris Reeve, Tops, Essie, they're not doing videos every day. They're not doing all sorts of knife media stuff. They're not doing all sorts of knife videos. They're not doing that. So they think I'm just some knife guy. Okay? Which, I'm not saying the exact people who gave those accusations believe that. I'm just saying in general, there are some people who watch Shed Knives just think it's some knife channel. Yeah, I'm a knife channel, but I have a full spot to make these knives, to sell knives all over the planet. So just had to clarify that. But what do they mean I'm not a knife maker? Well, last time I checked with the handmade knife industry, which I do not claim to be a part of, by the way, apparently sending knives, so I guess I just have to lay out the process again. I make all of my designs. This sheep's foot was in my mind on paper, and it's been like that for years. So I took what's on my mind, jotted it down on paper, got the exact specs, and then I had somebody make this CAD file or DXF file. Now, does that count as me not being a knife maker because I didn't take the time to do the CAD file? Personally, I find that to be a waste of time to go learn a completely new software program when I can give somebody $30 to go do all my designs for me. It's called outsourcing. It's called being smart and being cost effective with your time. Moving forward, once I have that CAD/DXF file, I give that to the people who cut out these blanks. And they also provide the steel. I get this done in New Jersey. So they cut this out with a water jet to my exact spec, and then they mail it to me. Apparently, I'm not a knife maker for doing that as well. Also, let me point the camera just to show you this beast. This is called a Tormach 770M CNC mill. You get the full name, there's a sticker, boom. Fantastic piece. Let me bring this camera down so you can see it a little bit better. You see this? This is a work of art. This is a massive CNC machine. This is going to be cutting out, the CNC machine is going to be cutting out my knives. So now I don't have to deal with New Jersey people making my knives and all that stuff. So I'm doing this in-house. So if you say I'm not a knife maker, great. Well, I know how to work a computer and cut out knives. So there's that. Last time I checked, that's making knives. I had to program the computer. I had to get the file somehow. All this had to be done. Who got the steel? Who built the machine? Who did all this stuff? Do you know? It's me. That's the answer. Now, moving forward down the process, now that we got the whole steel part out of the way, G10. Check out the G10 scales. I'm going to try and get this to focus. Let's check out the G10 scales. These are G10 scales. I have another CNC machine, which I'll show you shortly, that will make these scales even better. My knives are not designed to be the tolerance of Hogue knives, which they have very tight tolerances, not to be to the spec of Chris Reeve knives. Certainly I'm working to that, that's why I'm getting better machines, but my quality of scales is increasing. It's getting much better. It's gotten much better since when I first started working with G10. So you also have to remember, 2023 was the first year I'd ever touched raw G10. And to make hundreds of knives through the year like this, and people want them, hey, that says a lot about the work. Just throwing that out there. So somebody had to do this. I've never outsourced G10 scales to another business and then have sold those scales on my knives. What I will say though, is that I considered it. There's a company literally like 5 minutes, if that, down the road from my shop that does CNC stuff. And I checked with them to see if they could do my scales. They cut out a ton of them, messed them up, absolutely like crazy messed them up, and I decided not to go with them. But those scales never made it onto a knife I sold. So just throwing that one out there. Now let me show you the CNC machine. The second CNC machine that is. Now I know I look a little dark over here, but at least you can see my shadows. So this is a Shedknife 4. This thing is going to cut out my scales. This is going to do all my G10 for the 2024 models. And I had somebody, while I'm on the subject, I had somebody say, dude, you claim to be all 100% USA made, but most of your machines are made outside of America. Let me touch on that. That's a very good point. At first, I started buying stuff 100% USA made, trying to get stuff made in the USA with machines, and I began to realize that that takes a lot of cash, takes a lot of money. If I wanted the same exact CNC machine here, but 100% USA made, you wouldn't be able to find it. So, just saying. Now you could find assembled in the USA, this one. You could find some parts made in the USA, but every washer, bolt, nut, wire, cable, computer part is not made in the USA for the majority of machines out there. And this one, the Shedknife, that was the one that really brought the attention to it's not made in the USA. Alright, well, I'm working towards that. Hope you can understand that. I'm working towards getting more USA machines in, but what I can do is I can afford to get the machines that I have, and I can make 100% USA made knives as well. Now my materials are 100% USA made. And does it really matter, seriously, does it really matter if I'm making it on a Taiwan belt sander or a USA made belt sander when there is a $500 difference in the machine? Does it really matter? For the majority of the knife world, it does not. If it matters to you, then give it a few years and Shedknives will be the brand for you. But in the meantime, this is what I do. Many people love it. Hundreds, if not thousands of people love it. And it works great. I'm constantly improving, which most companies don't do. And yeah, we're moving forward. So let's continue on making knives. Just to clarify how much of a knife maker I really am. I'll let you be the judge. Anyways, now that the scales have been figured out, this blank itself has been figured out, what about the grind? Who does the grind? This guy right here, I do the grind. My belt sander is right over there, and I have a plate. I've taken off the plate now because I won't need to use that exact plate, but I grind these out. 36 grit belt sander, like belt on the belt sander, 8-inch contact wheel, and I have an angled plate that I grind my knives on. Use a jig for that. Now, some handmade people would say, well, that's not handmade because you use a jig. Okay, then it's not handmade, but guess what? I know how to manage my time. Now, I have to say something real quick. And I've said this before, I admire handmade knife makers. I don't have an issue with them because I started doing that. When I first started making knives, I did that. I did the work. I understand it. It makes sense. It's not easy. What I haven't said, though, is that these handmade makers have no room to talk in a factory setting. They have not worked in this realm. They have not logged on to a CNC machine and programmed a file. Maybe I haven't programmed a file from the base, but I certainly have to make adjustments and spec it out myself. They just give me a good rough draft. They've never done that. So who are you to say I'm not a knife maker when you've never done that? Who are you to say that Shedknives, oh, we just outsource when you don't ask questions? That says a lot about your character. That says a lot about your personality when you don't ask questions and you just make assumptions. If I'm curious on something and I'm wondering, this doesn't look right, I ask a question. I try and figure that out. Just like the guy I mentioned earlier. He wasn't trying to beat me up over steel thickness. He was genuinely confused on my explanation and just needed a more detailed explanation. More power to you. And guess what? That helps the knife community. That helps us knife freaks. That's what I call us because we all love knives. That helps us get along better. That helps improve the community. Now, if you want to make all sorts of assumptions, great. but I'll ask some questions. Where's your YouTube channel? Oh, you don't have any videos? Oh, okay. Where's your knife shop? Oh, you don't have any photos or anything? Oh, okay. How about your knives? Where are your knives? Well, here's one of mine. I don't see your knives anywhere. Where are they? How about your dealers? I'll end with one. Where are your dealers? I'd like to find those. Distributors by any chance? Oh, okay. Well, if you don't have any of those, if you can't provide any, resources to prove that, as far as I know, you're not really coming up with anything new. You're just making stuff up. So anyways, let's continue down the knife making path, because I don't want to address this topic ever again. It's burned too much time, and if people want to continue discussing it, great. I'll just see myself out of that one. So we've discussed, let's recap. We've discussed cutting out the blank. I've discussed how I do my grind. I've discussed how I do my G10, where I'm moving to the G10, also where I'm moving for my blank, cutting that out here. I did not discuss where I'm moving to my grind. I'll be doing the grind on the CNC machine here, so I gotta click all these buttons, put the knife in at the right angle, it'll do my grind. I've not touched on Kydex sheath, shipping, marketing, and sharpening. So sharpening, I do that here, two-step process. I sharpen that myself, and I was given a compliment. You're a sharpener at best. Well, thank you. At least I've done something right. Anyways, I sharpen knives. I do that. They're very sharp. And then, let's see what else was there. Kydex sheaths. I do all the Kydex sheaths in-house. Maybe, yeah, there we go. You can see my kind of distorted Kydex press on the side there. I broke it, but I still use it because it works. So, got my Kydex press there. I make all the Kydex sheaths in-house, and they're a one-to-one match. So sure, with the sheep's foots, for example, they could all kind of work, but because each scale is different, each grind is a little bit different, all of the Kydex sheaths are a one-to-one match. So I do all of that in-house, all the grommets, all the grinding, Kydex sheaths are done in-house. All my clips, I'll show you kind of a funky clip. So you see how it's curved right there? I'm going to cut this off right about there, and this is going to be a clip. So I do all my Kydex clips in-house, and they go from there. So this is just kind of a very raw example of my Kydex clips. Maybe I have, oh, here we go. Here's a more refined version right here. So there you go. Anyways, I do all the Kydex clips in-house, do all that assembly. I have two things left, boxing, shipping, and then the marketing. So the boxing, shipping, I do all that stuff myself. Get that out. So somebody has to do that. Somebody had to assemble the knife. Somebody had to do the Kydex sheath. Someone had to do the G10. It sounds like I have to make a knife. Oh my gosh, really? That's what I've been doing all this time, making knives? Oh, I had no clue. So I make knives. And then the marketing side of it, this is what no handmade knife maker knows how to do. I'll be honest. No handmade knife maker knows how to market properly. And whether you think Shedknives is doing a great job or not, that's up to you. But handmade knife companies, they really don't. And there's a point where, for example, LT Right Knives, let me use them. I think they do a really good job with marketing, but I don't know if it was like intentional, for example. I'm not trying to like downplay their results or downplay what they've done, but I truly believe that they've just done this. They've done those daily videos, the daily quotes. They've done that stuff literally out of the goodness of their heart, literally because they enjoy it, not because they sat down and they're like, okay, do a daily quote, have different people do different thoughts of the day, and that's going to sell knives, and that's going to grow our company. I don't think they did that. Maybe they did. LT Right Knives, if you're listening, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm open to correcting if I get something wrong, which some of you need to take notes about. But yeah, most handmade knife makers, you see them at Blade Show. They're like a bowl of M&Ms. They all look the same. Go to Blade Show, you see all the tables. All the tables. There's dozens of them. And they'll have a few knives out. My name's so-and-so. I make 4 knives a year, bang. And there's nothing different other than maybe one uses Damascus, one uses stainless steel, just whatever. But you get what I'm saying. There's no variation. It's all the same. It's literally all the same. It's just the personality that's different. Nothing else changed. They didn't market differently. They didn't really do any marketing. They post a few knives here and there. So, anyways, that's my thing. And I have to say, sometimes I have an issue with the handmade community because they don't understand the manufacturing. They don't understand the more technical CNC computerized stuff. But yet they talk about it. That's the thing. They talk about it. They say, that's this, that, and the other. Is it though? Have you tried it? Please come to my shop. I'll show you. And then we'll see how serious you are about it. But they won't take the time to do so. They probably won't even take me up on the offer. So, just saying that one. Now, if you want to make handmade knives, fantastic. We do need you in the industry. We need somebody to fill up those tables every year. Yeah, I have no problem with handmade knife makers. I have a few handmade pieces myself. Like I said, I started with handmaids. So, that's some clarification, guys. Fensometer was a little high today. But anyways, my name is Jack. I make knives. If you like knives, definitely hit the subscribe if you have not. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments. Maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't. Just try to keep it friendly. Try and keep it friendly. Ask questions. Don't necessarily make assumptions. And if something needs more explaining, I'll try the best I can. But anyways, there we go. I wish you all the best. See you in the next one.